A new Wordle puzzle is online. Click on the link to play.
Listening to the following video may give you clues. Please like and share the videos.
Boris Becker jailed for 2 years for hiding assets. Were you aware that tennis star Boris Becker was recently jailed for 2 years for hiding assets? You can read this article to learn more about his financial situation, bankruptcy, and the transfers of his assets.
This article explains how the tennis star's actions have impacted his reputation and career. It also shows how he may have been trying to manipulate the system.
The sentence may not be a punishment for the underlying issues, but it is likely to serve as a deterrent to other tennis players. Boris Becker's financial situation.
Former tennis star Boris Becker has been jailed for 2 years after he was found guilty of hiding his assets after declaring bankruptcy. Becker was convicted of 4 counts of concealing assets after his bankruptcy was declared in June 2017.
The former world number 1 had also failed to disclose his property in Germany. In addition to failing to declare his property, Becker failed to disclose his ownership of 75% stake in a tech company.
In addition to hiding his assets, Becker also concealed over €800,000 in debt. According to court documents, Becker hid assets after filing for bankruptcy in 2001.
The ex-tennis player had been paying high maintenance to his ex-wife and her mother. The money also financed Becker's lavish lifestyle, including his $2.5 million Chelsea apartment and expensive trips to Harrods.
Becker also maintained his Wimbledon home at a cost of $22,000 a month. The case has also caused a PR storm in the tennis world.
Becker was wearing a green and purple tie in court, and he had no sign of emotion as he walked into the court. Becker has denied all the charges and claims to be in no way guilty of the crimes.
However, his attorney said Becker had shown no remorse for the crimes and should not be jailed for this crime. Nevertheless, the judge said Becker would serve a minimum of 15 months in jail before being eligible for release.
The case sparked a furore among tennis fans, and Becker's court-appointed lawyer, Deborah Taylor, has ruled that the tennis player will be jailed for 2 years for hiding assets after bankruptcy. The 3-time Grand Slam champion was found guilty of 4 charges under the Insolvency Act.
The prosecutors claimed that Becker misrepresented his assets by hiding them from his creditors, hiding €8 million in debt, and failing to declare his German property. After his bankruptcy, he failed to declare his shares in a tech company.
After his conviction, he was found guilty of concealing his assets and transferring money to his estranged wife Barbara and estranged wife Charlie. While Becker faces a 2-year sentence, his chances of a comeback are slim.
Becker's bankruptcy. A court found that German tennis player Boris Becker hid assets worth hundreds of thousands of pounds after declaring bankruptcy in 2011.
Those assets were later transferred to Becker's estranged wife, Barbara, and his ex-wife Lily. Besides hiding his bank loan, Becker also concealed ownership of shares in a tech company and his property in Lyman, Germany.
However, Becker was acquitted of 20 other charges, including failing to disclose his assets after bankruptcy. A bankruptcy case arose from a debt Becker owed to a private banker.
During the period of bankruptcy, Becker received around €1.13 million from the sale of his Mercedes dealership. He then transferred hundreds of thousands of pounds to other accounts, including those belonging to his ex-wife Barbara and his estranged wife Charlie, Lily Becker.
He gave bankruptcy officials a runaround by keeping the money hidden. During this period, Becker paid high maintenance payments to his ex-wife and her mother, living in Chelsea, London.
Moreover, he maintained his Wimbledon home by spending £22,000 a month on it. Becker is now serving a 2-year prison term for concealing his assets after bankruptcy.
He also denied the charges. Neither of his lawyers responded to a request for comment.
Despite the high profile of his case, Becker will still have to serve half his 2-year jail term, according to court documents. Becker has been a resident of Britain for the last decade and has been jailed for 2 years for hiding assets after bankruptcy.
He will serve his sentence before considering his release from prison. While Becker is being sentenced to 2 years in jail for hiding assets, his former partners, his son, and Lilian de Carvalho Montero are celebrating in his support.
Becker's concealment of assets. Former world number 1 tennis player Boris Becker has been jailed for 2 years for concealing his assets after declaring bankruptcy.
During his bankruptcy proceedings, he was found guilty of concealing his assets and failing to hand over his Wimbledon gold medal and 2 Wimbledon trophies. Becker's total earnings were estimated to be over $1 million, but his lifestyle was lavish off the court.
Becker claimed that his expenses for his lavish lifestyle and costly divorce had absorbed the money. The 3-time Grand Slam champion was jailed for 2 years and 6 months after being convicted of concealing his assets after bankruptcy.
Becker hid $125,000 in a bank account and held 75,000 shares in a tech firm. Court records show that Becker failed to declare his German property and hid €825,000 in debt.
His lawyer had argued that the court should reduce the sentence, but Becker did not show any emotion while speaking in court. The German tennis star's attorney said he has lost the chance to rebuild his career.
After being declared bankrupt, he was legally required to disclose all of his assets to creditors. Despite this, he failed to disclose his ownership of a property in Lehman, Germany, as well as his shares in a Canadian technology firm.
The German Tennis Federation and the Insolvency Service have expressed regret over the decision. The bankrupt Becker received nearly $50 million in cash from the sale of a Mercedes dealership. Despite
this, he failed to disclose his estate to the trustee and transferred hundreds of thousands of pounds to other accounts. His estranged wife, Barbara, and his daughter, Lily, had a joint bank account with him but had not disclosed it to the bankruptcy trustee.
Becker's transfer of assets. Despite his $38 million sporting fortune, former tennis star Boris Becker has been jailed for 2 years for hiding assets.
He claimed to have lost his money when a divorce, child maintenance, and luxury lifestyle cost him his $38 million sporting fortune. Becker also said his brand had been damaged by his public image and the negative press surrounding him.
He has been convicted of 4 counts under the Insolvency Act, including failing to disclose his assets, and was jailed for 2 years for the crime. The recorder for Westminster, Deborah Taylor, said Becker's brand had been damaged by a public revelation of his private life, and that Becker had shown no remorse. A 3-time Grand Slam champion, Boris Becker, has been jailed for 2 years for hiding assets following his bankruptcy. The former Wimbledon champion hid assets from creditors and transferred over £350,000 from his account after declaring bankruptcy. He also failed to disclose his property in Germany and shares in a tech company. He has since been acquitted of 20 other charges relating to his bankruptcy. The bank deemed Becker guilty of a criminal offense. He had concealed his assets and repaid debts to friends and family members without telling the court he had done so. He also failed to provide details about his bank loan and shares in his tech company, Breaking Data Corp. He was convicted of tax evasion in his native Germany in 2002. Becker, however, urged the court to pass a lengthy jail term to deter such behavior. The judge ruled that Becker had hidden assets after filing for bankruptcy and owed creditors $49.1 million. He and his partner Lilian de Carvalho Montero arrived at the court in a black taxi and her son Noah, the court chaplain, walked into the courtroom hand in hand. Becker showed no emotion before being taken to jail. Becker has denied the charges. However, the former tennis champion, who has since remarried, has spent the money on expensive clothes. Becker's reputation in tatters. German tennis star Boris Becker has been jailed for 2 years for hiding assets during a personal bankruptcy trial. In April, Becker testified that he had no idea where his 2 Wimbledon men's singles trophies were. He also claimed that his earnings had been wiped out by child maintenance payments and expensive lifestyle commitments. Becker, who has been living in Britain since 2012, was sentenced to 2 years in prison for concealing his assets. The court also found Becker not guilty on 20 other charges relating to the failure to hand over 2 Wimbledon trophies and an Olympic gold medal. Despite his acclaim for a flamboyant lifestyle, Becker's career earnings were widely reported as million. He defended his behavior by saying that his money was eaten up by lifestyle commitments and a costly divorce. As well as his $2.5 million Chelsea flat, Becker had a $2.5 million apartment in London. He also spent money at Ralph Lauren and Harrods, as well as on a private jet company and a golf resort in China.
The court also said that Becker's actions were the result of advice from an expert, and he had been playing the system in bad faith. After declaring bankruptcy, the German tennis player transferred money to his estranged wife Lily and his ex-wife Barbara, without declaring the loans or shares.
As part of his financial deception, he concealed ownership of property and shares in a tech company called Breaking Data Corp. He was also found guilty of tax evasion in Germany, but was acquitted on 20 other charges.